Grand Admiral. Grand Admiral is the highest formal rank within the Imperial Navy and represents the pinnacle of military authority beneath the Emperor himself. Unlike standard admirals, Grand Admirals are not merely fleet commanders, they are strategic architects of the Empire's wars. Only a handful of individuals ever hold this title, and those who do are selected for exceptional intellect, loyalty, and the ability to deliver decisive victories on a galactic scale. A Grand Admiral commands massive fleets that often span multiple sectors. They are given broad autonomy to plan campaigns, redeploy forces, and pursue enemies without waiting for approval from Moffs or regional governors. In many cases, Grand Admirals can override local authority entirely if they deem it necessary for Imperial objectives. This places them in a rare position where military command supersedes political governance. What truly distinguishes a Grand Admiral is their role in long-term strategy. They analyze enemy behavior, anticipate resistance movements, and design operations meant not just to win battles, but to end wars. Grand Admirals are expected to understand culture, psychology, and logistics at a level far beyond standard officers. The most famous example, Grand Admiral Thrawn, demonstrated how precision, patience, and psychological warfare could dismantle entire rebel networks without relying solely on brute force. Despite their power, Grand Admirals remain under intense scrutiny. Their independence makes them dangerous if disloyal, and the Emperor tolerates no deviation from Imperial ideology. A Grand Admiral who fails or challenges authority risks immediate removal or execution. As a result, the rank embodies both immense trust and extreme risk. Grand Admiral represents the Empire at its most calculated. It is the point where intellect, authority, and military dominance converge, making those who hold the title some of the most formidable figures in Star Wars history. Imperial Security Bureau Agent. An Imperial Security Bureau agent operates within the Empire's internal intelligence and counterinsurgency apparatus, making them one of the most feared non-military figures in the galaxy. Unlike naval officers or stormtroopers, ISB agents do not fight wars openly. Their role is to prevent rebellions from ever becoming wars in the first place. They do this through surveillance, interrogation, infiltration, and ruthless enforcement of Imperial law. ISB agents are tasked with identifying dissidents, tracking rebel cells, monitoring planetary governments, and rooting out ideological threats to the Empire. They work both in the shadows and in plain sight, often embedded within civilian populations or stationed at regional security hubs. While they lack traditional military rank, their authority is absolute within their jurisdiction. Stormtroopers, officers, and even local governors are expected to comply with ISB directives without question. What makes ISB agents especially dangerous is their autonomy. They are trained to act independently, making decisions based on intelligence assessments rather than battlefield conditions. Arrests, disappearances, and executions can be ordered on suspicion alone. Due process is irrelevant. Maintaining control is the priority. Agents are encouraged to view fear as a tool and paranoia as a feature, not a flaw. ISB agents are also deeply political. Advancement depends on results, loyalty, and the ability to navigate internal power struggles. Failure is punished harshly, often with reassignment, imprisonment, or worse. As seen in canon portrayals like Andor, ISB agents are relentless, methodical, and emotionally detached, treating entire populations as data points rather than people. In the Imperial hierarchy, an ISB agent represents the Empire's internal fist. They ensure obedience not through open warfare, but through constant pressure, surveillance, and the knowledge that the Empire is always watching. ISB Supervisor. ISB Supervisors sit above standard Imperial Security Bureau agents and function as regional or departmental overseers within the Empire's intelligence network. While agents carry out investigations in the field, supervisors design, coordinate, and control those operations. They decide which threats are prioritized, which planets are monitored, and how aggressively resources are deployed. In many cases, a supervisor's decisions determine whether a rebellion is quietly erased or allowed to grow into open conflict. An ISB supervisor typically oversees multiple agents, analysts, and informant networks across several systems. They review intelligence reports, authorize interrogations, and manage long-term counterinsurgency strategies. Unlike field agents, supervisors rarely conduct arrests themselves. Their power lies in bureaucracy and information control. A single order from a supervisor can trigger mass surveillance, planetary lockdowns, or coordinated arrests across multiple worlds. At this level, politics become inseparable from intelligence work. Supervisors compete with one another for influence, funding, and recognition from higher authorities. Success is measured in suppression statistics, not justice. Entire populations may be punished if it leads to a reduction in rebel activity. Supervisors are expected to eliminate threats efficiently, even if it means sacrificing agents or civilians in the process. ISB supervisors also act as internal enforcers within the Bureau itself. Agents suspected of failure, disloyalty, or inefficiency are investigated and removed without hesitation. Loyalty to the Empire matters more than competence. Fear is deliberately cultivated, ensuring that agents remain obedient and aggressive. In the Imperial hierarchy, the ISB supervisor represents control through administration. They are not the visible face of tyranny, but the architects behind it, shaping fear and repression through data, orders, and ruthless prioritization. Imperial Intelligence Director. The Imperial Intelligence Director occupies one of the most powerful and secretive positions in the Galactic Empire. While Moffs govern territory and admirals command fleets, the intelligence director controls information itself. This role oversees vast intelligence networks that include spies, analysts, slicers, informants, and covert operatives spread across the galaxy. Very few individuals ever interact directly with someone at this level, and even fewer understand the full scope of their authority. An Imperial Intelligence Director is responsible for gathering, interpreting, and weaponizing information. They decide which threats are real, which are exaggerated, and which are quietly ignored for political convenience. Rebel cells, rival Imperial officials, alien movements, and even high-ranking officers are all subject to surveillance. Nothing of importance escapes their notice for long. Reports from ISB supervisors, undercover agents, and military intelligence units ultimately funnel upward to this position. At this rank, power is exercised indirectly. The director rarely issues public orders or appears on the battlefield. Instead, they manipulate events by controlling what others know. A fleet may be redirected, a governor disgraced, or a sector destabilized based entirely on intelligence assessments crafted in secret. This makes the role extremely dangerous, as decisions are made far from consequences and with minimal oversight. The position is also intensely political. Intelligence directors must maintain the Emperor's trust while navigating rivalries with the ISB, Moffs, and military leadership. A single perceived failure or hint of disloyalty can result in immediate removal or execution. As a result, directors are cautious, ruthless, and deeply pragmatic. In the Imperial hierarchy, the intelligence director represents dominance through knowledge. They do not rule through fear alone, but through awareness, ensuring that resistance is anticipated, manipulated, and crushed before it ever becomes visible. Inquisitor. An Inquisitor is a specialized Imperial enforcer trained in the dark side of the Force and tasked with hunting down Jedi survivors, Force-sensitive individuals, and other threats to Sith dominance. Unlike traditional military or intelligence ranks, the position of Inquisitor exists outside the normal chain of command. They answer directly to Darth Vader and, by extension, the Emperor himself. This places them in a uniquely feared position within the Imperial hierarchy. Most Inquisitors are former Jedi who were captured, broken, and forcibly turned after Order 66. Their training is brutal and deliberately incomplete. They are taught just enough dark side techniques to be effective hunters, but never enough to challenge Sith authority. This ensures total dependence on Vader while keeping them expendable. Inquisitors are not trusted allies. They are weapons. Operationally, Inquisitors are deployed wherever Force-sensitive activity is suspected. They interrogate prisoners, track rumors of Jedi relics, and conduct violent raids on worlds believed to harbor survivors of the Order. Their presence alone is often enough to terrify populations into compliance, as they represent a direct reminder that the Jedi are not just gone, but hunted. Inquisitors wield distinctive spinning lightsabers and rely heavily on intimidation, aggression, and overwhelming force. Precision and restraint are secondary to results. Collateral damage is acceptable, and civilian casualties are irrelevant if it leads to the elimination of a target. Their missions often leave devastation in their wake, reinforcing the Empire's reputation for cruelty. Despite their power, Inquisitors are deeply unstable figures. They are constantly tested, punished, and replaced. Failure is usually fatal. In the Imperial system, an Inquisitor's life is worth less than the Jedi they are sent to kill. They embody the Empire's darkest truth. Power is granted only to be used and then discarded. Grand Inquisitor. The Grand Inquisitor is the highest-ranking member of the Inquisitorius and serves as its overall commander. Unlike standard Inquisitors, who function as hunters and enforcers, the Grand Inquisitor is both a field operative and an administrator, responsible for coordinating the Empire's entire Jedi hunting apparatus. He answers directly to Darth Vader and the Emperor, placing him above nearly all Imperial officers when Force-related matters are involved. Originally a Jedi Temple Guard, the Grand Inquisitor possessed deep knowledge of Jedi traditions, training methods, and weaknesses. This made him uniquely suited to hunt former allies. His understanding of Jedi psychology allowed him to predict behavior, set traps, and exploit emotional vulnerabilities rather than relying on brute force alone. This strategic mindset set him apart from other Inquisitors, who were often reckless and short-lived. As leader of the Inquisitorius, the Grand Inquisitor assigns targets, oversees training, and evaluates the effectiveness of his subordinates. Failure among the ranks is expected, and replacements are readily available. He enforces discipline through fear, punishment, and lethal consequence, ensuring that only the most ruthless survive. His authority allows him to command Imperial resources, intelligence, and military support when necessary, even overriding local command structures. In combat, the Grand Inquisitor is far more refined than his subordinates. He combines calculated swordsmanship with psychological manipulation, often attempting to break opponents mentally before defeating them physically. However, despite his power, he remains expendable in the eyes of the Sith. His position exists only to serve their goals, and his survival depends entirely on continued usefulness. The Grand Inquisitor represents the culmination of Imperial force enforcement, a former guardian of peace transformed into an instrument of terror. He is the embodiment of the Empire's victory over the Jedi, wielding their knowledge against them in service of absolute control.